Dragon's Dogma 2 dropped this last week, and I have been playing it. I've been playing it on the Xbox, so I don't have the performance issues that are occurring on the PC. Looks like they're going to be fixed here soon. But it dropped to a little bit of outrage online on social media, and I've come to this conclusion. Most of the social media outrage is just limited to social media, and honestly is trumped up by losers. Like, that's just it. Most of it. Some of it is legitimate. This is not that case. Dragon Dogma's 2 microtransactions and the outrage thereof was a big miss by a lot of people. And it brought up this discussion. It was like players were reacting. So for those of you that don't know, players are unhappy. Some players are leaving negative reviews over on Steam on Dragon Dogma 2 because there's microtransactions in the game. My point is that microtransactions are not inherently bad. Microtransactions can boost your gaming experience a lot of times. And this discussion that microtransactions in a game, microtransactions in and of themselves are bad and wrong, and I will automatically give a bad review to a game if it includes microtransactions, particularly if it's a single player game. That's such a 2002 discussion. We've long had microtransactions in game. Microtransactions are the norm now. They're here to stay. They're not going anywhere, for better or for worse. I think it's actually for the better. That's right. I don't think we'd have free-to-play games if it wasn't for well-done microtransaction games. Long are gone are the days of predatory loot boxes. I think now some games still have them, and games that have them should get bad reviews. Games that do not implement microtransactions correctly or well should get bad reviews. Why? Because that's a part of the game. But let's go over, I just think the whole discussion around microtransactions are not inherently bad. Period. That is the take of this. In fact, I think microtransactions can actually, in some cases, boost your gaming experience. That's right. And boost gaming overall for everybody when implemented correctly. And for the most part, guys, microtransactions are implemented correctly. And it's a reality. So this idea that like, oh, microtransactions are in Dragon's Dogma 2, ergo, Dragon's Dogma 2 is bad. That's you're having an archaic discussion. The world has moved on without you. How does it feel? Let's jump into this news story. This is Eurogamer reporting this. Unexpected Dragon's Dogma 2 microtransactions leave sour taste in players' mouth. They should just say in some players. Actually, to be more accurate, it should say in players on Twitter. And I'm coming to learn that really a lot of the drama on Twitter is just that. It's just drama on Twitter. It's drama isolated to Twitter. This is the mistake that everybody makes. I am on social media, whether that's Discord, whether that's Twitter, whether that's Instagram, wherever you're at on social media. And people tend to think that because everybody that follows me or watches me or the group that I run in has a certain opinion, that everybody agrees with that opinion. No, that opinion is representative of the people who you're interacting with, period. That opinion is not representative of everyone. So it's something that we all fall into. I think it's human nature. But let's read this. So here is the story released today, Dragon's Dogma 2. But despite a swath of critical reviews full of praise, I'm one of those. I'm loving this game. It's very well done. It's not for everybody. It's this different style of an RPG, but I find it a refreshing style. I never played the first Dragon Dogmas, mind you. So the first Dragon's Dogma. I never played the first one, so this is my first jump into it. I love it. I love the focus on action. I love the focus on, it seems like they really go out of their way to streamline things. I'm not overwhelmed in this open world experience, which oftentimes I am. And I'm just very much enjoying it. So a swath of critical reviews full of praise for Capcom's action RPG sequel. Many players have been left disappointed by unexpected microtransactions and performance issues. Capcom seemingly added a series of gameplay affecting microtransactions. Gameplay affecting. Is it though? Not really. Almost anything that's in the microtransactions, first of all, they're all like $2 or less. Second of all, anything that you can get in those microtransactions, you can also get in game. So it's not gameplay affecting at all. Also, it's a single player game, remember. Gameplay affecting microtransactions after the game's reviews were published yesterday. This has left many with a bitter taste in their mouths, and Dragon's Dogma 2 currently sits with a mixed review average on Steam. Many of the game's 7,000 plus user reviews on the platform have called the developer out for adding paid DLC into a single player game. One item allows for you to revive the dead. Yes, it's called a wake stone. Wake stones you can earn by completing pawn quests, which I'm not even that far into the game. I already have 2 of them. Or you can buy one if you want. But but they're not that hard to get. Another has caused upset is the Art of Metamorphosis character editor DLC, which costs $1.69. As its name suggests, this one-time consumable gives users the ability to change the appearance of their Arisen, though Capcom does note players are also able to acquire this item in the game itself. I don't have a problem with that either. Zero problem with those. Also, those price points are not bad at all. So I very much am... it's just giving you the options to buy these. I very much am of the opinion that the Dragon and Dogma 2 microtransactions are not bad. It's not anything that you can only get via microtransactions, number one. And number two, I think the whole discussion around microtransactions, these players are acting as if microtransactions in a game in and of itself is bad, and it's just not. So how does microtransactions, how can it boost gaming's number one, financial support for developers? It can fund future projects. It gives you sustainable revenue. An example, furthermore, all of these consumables, by the way, all of these microtransactions are in all of Capcom's game, these same microtransactions. So it's not like this is new. Second of all, it was given to reviewers. There was a whole sheet given to reviewers who chose not to discuss them because they probably saw it and thought to themselves, oh, this is no big deal. These are there. And then the Twitterati unloaded on microtransactions. It can also enhance the player's experience. It can give you personalization. So a lot of times microtransactions are cosmetics. I'm looking at Fortnite for the most part. Or an example like that. Accessibility. It can make the game more accessible. So for instance, I am a pay for convenience microtransaction guy. I don't have that much time. If there is something that's going to make my life easier, I'm going to pay for it. That's just me. And then finally, content longevity, revenue from microtransactions will encourage game developers and doesn't encourage game developers to continuously create content for their game. It encourages innovation and variety. It mitigates risk. So I can take a risk on this game because I'll make it up via microtransactions. And it can also support niche games. So a game that's super niche. I would actually put Dragon's Dogma in that. It's coming out to critical reviews, but it's not a mainstream huge game. Maybe it will be now. But microtransactions is a way that niche games can be financially viable. I'm looking at like a Crusader Kings, for instance. I would consider that a niche game. Community building. There can be developers can use microtransaction revenues to host events, tournaments, community challenges, etc. There's a solid feedback loop. So different this would be an example of feedback. Different microtransactions may evoke different real-time feedback on what players enjoy and value, helping developers to create experiences that players enjoy. Finally, economic models and players' choice. This is all things that I wrote down here. There's a value proposition to microtransactions, right? For some players, spending a few extra dollars for additional content or conveniences is worthwhile for the hours of enjoyment that they receive, and there's flexibility in those choices. So microtransactions do have their critics for sure, and microtransactions are not always implemented well. My point here is just that for the most part, I think we're to this place where microtransactions actually boost gaming and gamers and give us more options. And even if you point to bad instances of microtransactions or microtransactions that you would consider bad, so for instance, I would consider the microtransactions in Diablo Immortal to be bad, to not be great. Yet, lots of people are paying for them. So it just might not be for me. Okay, I don't play Diablo Immortal as a result. And so that's just it. Microtransactions in and of themselves are not bad. Microtransactions, if implemented well, can help boost your game experience. And I think the microtransactions in Dragon's Dogma 2 are a giant nothing burger. They're simply options for players who want to utilize them. Yeah, I'll spend an extra $1 here to get an extra wake stone. I'll spend an extra $1 to get this item that I could also get in game, but I want an extra one. So here we go. I have zero problem with that. It doesn't affect, especially in a single player game, it does not affect my gaming experience at all. The question becomes, well, this encourages gamers to make games that are excessively grindy to encourage your gameplay. I would point to a game like Genshin Impact, for instance. Genshin Impact is one of those types of games. I don't play Genshin Impact. Lots of players do, and lots of players enjoy that model and that game model. If it's not for you, don't play it. It's that simple. Also, the way that microtransactions are implemented in the game are just a part of the game review. We should start including them in every game review. I think that that's totally doable. I do think it looks like it wasn't Capcom's fault that reviewers did not include these microtransactions in their reviewers. They gave you all the material. Reviewers just chose not to. And it's because, again, they probably looked at it and said, oh, yep, no big deal. But this idea that microtransactions, and it just seems to me, the only reason I'm making this video is because it seems to me that there's this discussion that's popped up that microtransactions are bad in and of themselves, and that's just not true. That's a discussion for 2002. Microtransactions are here to stay. They're literally in almost every single game. And if you don't like the way microtransactions are implemented, if it doesn't affect your game, then just play the game and don't get the microtransactions. It literally has zero effect on you at all. If you do like the way microtransactions are implemented, then pay for those microtransactions. If the way that microtransactions are implemented into the game ruin your gaming experience, then it's not a good game. It's not a game for you. Don't play the game. I just don't. It seems like players want to, especially on social media and Twitter. I want my game made especially for me, specifically the way I want it to be made. And if it's not, I'm going to hate it. That's not how games are made. That's not how this works. Sounds like you need to go make your own game. Now, it doesn't mean that the concerns about microtransactions are not legitimate. There are bad ways to implement microtransactions. For instance, pay-to-win mechanics, right, where microtransaction give players who spend real money an unfair advantage in gameplay, especially in multiplayer. That's a real concern, and I think should be avoided at all costs. Having said that, if and when there are games out there that do that, it seems to me that some of those games still succeed. So some players somewhere are willing to pay that. I don't, because I don't like that. But if you do, go, more power to you. Another concern is loot boxes and gambling, where there's this chance to get desired items, and so it encourages repeated spending, and it can potentially exploit players. I actually like loot boxes. There's an excitement. There's like opening a card pack. In fact, I think that's why like a Hearthstone does so well, or a Marvel Snap. Well, Marvel Snap doesn't sell card packs, but any of those card-based games do so well because it's not a loot box. It's a pack. That's just semantics, I guess. But done incorrectly, I would say Overwatch does not do that correctly. Overwatch, again, is a very popular game, though. Also, Overwatch, think about this. Overwatch sells $30 skins in their store. I'm never going to buy that $30 skin. I don't think that $30 skin is worth it. But it doesn't affect the gameplay of Overwatch for me. It doesn't affect how fun that game is. Diablo had a horse that had a mount that was like $60. Granted, it came with in-game coin. That makes it worth it. It's a nice little sweetener there. But that mount is not worth it to me. I don't care about that mount. It's freaking cool, but I'm not paying $60 for that mount, but some people will. I'm not going to get mad at that. That's just an option for players there who want to play it. But pay to win is definitely a concern. But I think most games avoid that now. Loot boxes or gambling is another concern. I think most games have found a nice balance, a correct balance there. Putting essential content behind paywalls. Oh, you mean like DLC? I'm not sure that that's a big deal anymore. I think at one time, each of these things were a big deal, but the gaming industry has evolved to a point where, honestly, it's not that big of a deal anymore. Most games are not doing this. And if a game does do it and does it incorrectly, then guess what? That game gets a bad review. It's that simple. The one that I am concerned about that I don't like is excessive grind to encourage spending. Lots of mobile games do this. Lots of mobile games do this. But again, those games are very, very popular. So who am I to say that a lot of players are playing it and they like that? And it's their like everyday go-to game, play a few minutes and continually grind. Sometimes they buy stuff, sometimes they don't. I think the concern here with that is that games will be made to encourage, like that's an example of a game being made to encourage spending. instead of focusing on a fun mechanic. That's not the most ideal way to do it, and indeed the best games don't do it that way. Obtrusive and frequent prompts to spend is another concern. That one I don't think is a huge deal in 2024 either. But all of those, so let's recap the concerns here so that I can address the concern crown. Pay to win, loot boxes, content behind paywalls, excessive grinding, and constant prompts to spend are all legitimate concerns. And I think the best games do little to none of these. The best games implement microtransactions correctly. I think Dragon's Dogma 2 is microtransactions done correctly. It's stuff I can get in game. It's just options if I want to pay for it. Don't mind it at all. Overall, though, I just think the discussion around microtransactions and microtransactions being inherently bad is archaic. I don't think it exists, and I don't think it's a discussion that is realistic in 2024. I don't mind microtransactions. I like the options. There are more options for me to game than ever before. If you do something in a game that I don't like, I'm just not going to play your game. Why am I going to bitch about it? I don't think I should. I would love to know what you guys think, though. This is going to have definitely people on all sides of the coin. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? I don't have a problem with microtransactions in almost every game, even single player games. If it's optional, if it's done correctly. I think Capcom did it correctly here. No big deal to me. And I've played the game. If you haven't played the game, don't give me an opinion on the Dragon's Dogma 2 microtransactions. Give me an opinion on microtransactions, not on Dragon's Dogma 2. A lot of the outrage I'm seeing is by people who did not play the game and have not yet played the game. That's irrelevant. That's a bad opinion to me. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Let's start this discussion. My name is X1 the Gamer. Don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel. We do videos like this every single day over here. X1 the Gamer. See you guys later. Bye-bye.